Welcome to another episode of The Sales Step Up. And have we got an exciting one today? Today is Lunch and Learn because it's 12 o'clock. So feel entitled to pour yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a sandwich, open some crisps, and come and join me for the next half hour. Probably a little bit more because we're both like the chat. Where I'm talking with Jeni Smith. Now, Jeni and I met a million years ago. We were just talking about this. It's really exciting. And her journey is phenomenal. She's going to be telling us all about networking. Let's be honest, in this day and age, building your network, building your relationships, talking to more people is actually crucial for our business success. It's also key for our sales success, but only if you do it right. So she's going to be telling us all about that. Now, the great thing is that if you are joining us live, you are going to be able to say hello as well. So if you're joining us live, come and say hello in the comments. And also, the great news is you can even put your own question actually to Jeni. So if you've got any questions for Jeni, then now is the time to ask those questions. Great, we've got Mark joining us already. I can see a couple of other people coming on screen as well. So if you are here, don't be a stranger. Come and say hello. We'd love to hear your questions. So a big hello to Jeni. Hi, Jeni.
Hi. That was fun, wasn't it? Just I'm appeared. Hello. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
I'm great. I know this, the technology we use is StreamYard. So for anyone watching, I know I sometimes get questions about it. We use StreamYard and it's actually super simple. So if anyone's hesitating about having to go on LinkedIn Live, get StreamYard and get ready to go because it's dead simple, isn't it?
Love it. Yeah, I'm a fan already.
Oh, fantastic. So we've known each other for a little while and we've just been doing catch up. But I know that for some people here, they're not going to know you. So do you want to just start by just telling us a bit about yourself? Give us an intro, Jeni.
Yeah, so hi everyone. This is my first LinkedIn Live as well, so I'm proper excited. Anyway, so my name is Jeni Smith. I'm a networking strategist and founder of a company called NetKnow, which I have to think about because I've just rebranded last week. So I've changed my name. So it just flows out. Anyway, NetKnow is the company name. And yeah, I'm super passionate about networking, about connecting people, about what happens and the power that comes from when people have conversations, essentially, and whether that's online or offline. But I'm all about networking, bringing people together. And that's kind of been my constant throughout my career, throughout my journey, which has led to the company NetKnow as it is today, Victoria. Yeah,
I know, and I've just seen your rebrand and all the stuff that's gone on about. So it's all really exciting. So I want to hear more about that. But you've actually been doing this. You've been doing this for a year, 18 months now?
Yeah. So the company launched in April 2020. So literally I was on maternity leave. I know, literally as the world closed its doors, it was no one's going to go networking. Well, at the time, it was only a couple of weeks or months, we thought.
I know.
And a year later, and face-to-face really isn't back. But yeah, that was my time to launch a business to help people network when no one's allowed to network. But to be fair, it ended up being probably the best time to do it because people needed to network in different ways and people needed to find new ways to connect. So I've been able to help people in a different way than originally thought. When I was planning the business, when I was on my maternity leave, I decided that this is what I was going to do. And what I originally thought it was going to look like, obviously lockdown happened. You've just got to pull up your big girl pants and crack on, don't you? And you change your plans. Yeah. And because of lockdown, I think it's actually enabled me to reach more people because of obviously working remotely. Pre-recorded content, lots of different things, really. So I think hopefully it's been a good time to launch a business, a networking consultancy. Essentially, is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well because I think you're right. I think it was at the beginning, everyone always kind of thought, oh, it's a few weeks, and actually some people were a bit like, that's a few weeks off work. Won't it be great? You know,
everyone was building bars in the gardens. Well, everyone was having a whale of a time. Yeah.
I know, I was feeling really bad that I already had one. I was like, oh dear, what does it say about your priorities? So it's an interesting time to start. But obviously one of the reasons why you want to do this is because you're really passionate about networking. So, I mean, what is it you love about it? Because as long as I've known you, you've been really big on the networking scene.
So I started networking originally like 15 years ago in Liverpool, completely by accident. I was still at university and did some voluntary work at a business, and it was a really small business. So the owner took me along to a networking event, and no one had ever like told me about networking. It's not a word I'd heard or a concept I was even aware of. So I just kind of went along and then got thrown into this room full of like grown-ups, like business people in suits, given a name badge and a G&T and told just to talk to them. And it was genuinely terrifying, like genuinely scared. I hid in the toilet most of the night. It was awful. But I went to another event like however many weeks later, and I think it was the third event I attended, eventually plucked up the courage to actually go and say hello to someone. And this guy was so like relieved someone had spoke to him, because he was more nervous than I was. So we just chatted the whole night, and that was my first kind of real experience of networking, I guess. And I think from then I got the bug and saw the access it gave me to these people that had such diverse like knowledge and experience from different industries. And then I found that I was speaking to someone, and in my brain I was going, oh, you need to speak to this person and you need to speak to that person, and like connecting people. And when I connected with them and they came back however long later and said, oh, we're doing business together, or we've created this partnership or whatever, all these amazing things happened, it really gave me this sense of like being able to have this impact. And by connecting people and bring them together, these amazing things happened. And I just got like, I was absolutely just fell in love with it. And a year later, I launched my first kind of business, which was a job I invented where I was a full-time networker. So I used to go networking to like 5-6 events a day. It was bonkers. I haven't got the energy for that these days.
I was going to say, that must have been exhausting.
Oh, it was exhausting. I didn't pay for food or wine for like a year, which was awesome. At the time, across Liverpool, Manchester, I was going networking, like all these events. And then the more networking you do, the more things you get invited to, because the more people you know, the more people want to know you. So it opens a lot of doors. So it wasn't just like book onto a networking event and attend it. It was come to the opening of this restaurant, like MTV awards, tennis tournaments, fashion shows, all these like networking opportunities that were invitation only. So it was an amazing year. But after a year, I didn't want to speak to anyone. I wanted to lock myself in a dark room, Victoria, and just like get a takeaway and just rock in a corner. Because, you give away a bit of yourself. I think when you network, you do. But it was fantastic. So yeah, I used to network on behalf of a number of different people and do kind of a corporate analysis of their business, understand who they were, what they were about, their target markets, and then go and just meet people and then connect them with anyone that I met.
And connect them up. So, that's amazing.
It saved them. It was great for small businesses that maybe didn't want a business development manager full time, but they also didn't have the time to do it themselves, or they didn't enjoy it themselves. So they just paid me a monthly retainer, and I went off and did all the legwork for them, and then they got the connections coming through. So it was fab. But yeah, after a year, I'd had enough and was like, I'm going back home to Carlisle. So then I moved back home to Cumbria, where I'm from originally. My sister was getting married and stuff. I wanted to be back home, and took what I'd learned from attending events, because there was so many, and then started hosting them. So that's when the business changed and like became technically the second venture I ran, which was hosting networking events. So that was a membership network in Carlisle that businesses would pay to be a member of, and then I'd put on 4 events every month that they could come to. And that was hard going. That was really hard, because at the time, networking wasn't really part of culture. People networked, but they didn't go to events to do it. They just knew people. So trying to change people's mindsets to get them to join and get on board, it took quite a while. So it was quite a tough slog. But once it kind of got going, it got going, and it was great. And I learned so much from that business and from those people, and I had a great time. And then I ended up over in the Northeast, fell in love with a boy from over here, as you do.
There's always a boy.
Always a boy, isn't there? I married him, so it was the right move. And yeah, ended up as the managing director of the Muscle Club in the Northeast, and ran that for 3 years, I think it was. And that was fantastic. And it got me to really immerse myself in the Northeast business community. And there's such a diverse, like in terms of sectors and businesses over here, which was fantastic. And then took a break from networking and spent 3 years. I was just, as I was saying before, 3 years supporting tech companies in the region, which again was an industry at the time I didn't really know anything about. I didn't know anything about, to be fair. But I know people, and I got to work with people, and I learned about the tech on the way. And that was a fantastic experience with Software City. So then that's led to where I am. I just give you a little whistle stop tour then, Victoria. I just went off on a bit of a
but it's
tangent.
interesting, I think, because I think what's nice about it though is it's really interesting, because to me what a lot of this speaks to is that your passion is people. Your passion is people. It's about supporting and promoting businesses. It's about helping people actually to enjoy something that maybe they were previously, as you say, hiding in the toilet about. And that must feel really fulfilling, you know?
Oh, massively. It is. And you're right in that networking is more of a vessel, I guess, for achieving a goal, which is bringing people together and helping them to achieve their own goals and their business goals and personal goals as well, and building their confidence. I think networking does so much for individuals' confidence. And so getting to see the impact that it has on people as individuals, but also on their businesses. That's what I love. That's my passion. Adore it.
And so we've got to ask the question. What's a networking strategist? I was like, what is that? I'm going to have to ask. Okay, so because I think that, we talk about connecting, we talk about networking, but what is a networking strategist? Because that speaks of strategy to me. So tell me all about that.
So I totally invented it. It's basically it is exactly what it's. So something that, again, I'm passionate about when it comes to networking is getting businesses and people to think of it in a strategic manner, the way they would any other form of marketing or sales, any other function. Networking is often either thought of as kind of fluffy and like, oh, you just go along and like it's a bit of a jolly. Or people just kind of go to the events that have got the free booze or the best buffets or that fit around their schedule for whatever else, but they don't give it any kind of strategic thought, which blows my mind, because I defy you to show me a business person who doesn't know the value of their personal connections and the people that they know on their network. Everyone knows the value of network, but we don't really have a strategy to make sure that we're getting the most out of our activities. What's your return on investment from networking? Especially if you've got teams of people who are going out sometimes to the same events. You've got staff who are turning up. You've got 5 or 6 staff that are going and showing up at the same thing. Or, you're going to events that are not positioning you in the right place to meet the right people, to have the right conversations in order to achieve your networking objectives. And I think often people don't even think about what their networking objectives are. They just go networking because it's something they think they should do. So I'm all about empowering people to really get the most out of networking. So I've created this networking ecosystem during my time as a networker that I took to Durham University, and they conducted 2 rounds of academic research into, and that ecosystem now allows me to create networking strategies for businesses. So it's this tangible tool that really empowers people to position themselves at the right events, to have the right conversations in order to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. So
and that's really interesting, because I think that you're entirely right about what people say, in that they don't have an objective, or they have like a really big objective, like, so why are you going networking? Well, I want to sell more. Okay. And it's like, well, how is that going to happen? Is it just going to be by magic? I don't know. Like, what's the plan, kind of thing? So that sounds like exactly what a lot of people are looking for right now.
I hope so. No, I think now you're right in that. I think one of the things that's come out of lockdown is that obviously the importance of networking has been really highlighted, the importance of having those connections. And us as humans, we need that. It's something that's ingrained in us. We need to have our tribes around us. As business owners, as anyone really, you need to be around people that you can trust in order to feel safe and to grow and to learn. But what's happened is, over the last year, being able to network remotely has highlighted how time efficient that can be, and how much of a resource drain attending networking events can potentially be. So I'm really hoping that people will go networking in person, but they'll do it in a strategic manner in order to make sure that if they are taking the time to physically drive and go to a networking event and pay for parking and whatever it is, then they need to know that they're going to the right one. And I think that's hopefully going to be a really positive thing, a positive outcome of, you know, of what's happened. And for businesses, they can start really utilizing the opportunities that are out there and making sure that they're going to the right ones for them.
And I think that's really interesting as well, because I think there is a degree that if you have taken the effort to travel to an event and you've done all this and you've got there and you've got in and you've introduced yourself to anyone, then you realize it's completely the wrong event. Like you're gonna stay because you can't leave because we're British, let's be honest. But hashtag British, can't leave. But I do think that one of the things that maybe the online sort of networking side of things is maybe not encouraged but introduced is almost the option to leave. You know, if people are in the wrong place, they're more likely just to go. And maybe that's not a bad thing for them to be thinking about. Like, is this actually a good use of my time or not, in evaluating networking in a way that they haven't before?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're totally right. And, you know, with online networking, if you do go to an event and realize, oh, it's not the right one, you can just put your camera off. You can still technically be there, turn your camera off, crack on with emails, do whatever else it is you want to do. Whereas in person, you can't do that. And I think, you know, in the same way that as now we can start having business meetings again, there's going to be almost those different levels, isn't there? There's like people that you could have a phone call with, people you could have a Zoom call with, which allows you to see face to face, but then putting that effort in to go and physically meet somewhere and have a coffee in person with someone, that shows a different level of commitment to that relationship. And we're going to be, I think, we're going to be more strategic about selecting which people we have a Zoom with, which people we have a phone call with, which is even quicker, or which people we then decide to really put the effort into, which clients we put the time to go in and physically meet with and shake hands with. And like, it's a different kind of commitment. And I think networking in person is going to be the same.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think there's going to be a very different assessment around that. And we just had Andrew join us there. Hi, Andrew. Big hello. If you are watching, say hello, because I can see you. I can see you on my little thing. I can see your eyes, but I can't see who you are unless you say hello. So do say hello to myself and Jenny. And if you've got a question for Jenny, then feel free to pop it in the comments, because Jenny, you love unexpected questions, don't you?
I really do. It's my joy in life, Victoria.
So I know that one of the things that you mentioned right at the top of this, that actually you've just put a new brand out there, and that's all to do with your new platform. So tell us a bit about that. What exactly is that?
So the business, as we said, launched last April, so a year in, and we've now just kind of done this rebrand, and I feel like it's like the business has grown up a bit. When I first started, I was a sole trader. It was a logo I did on Canva myself when I had a 10-week-old baby crying, like sleeping in the background. She wasn't crying, she was asleep. So it was time to kind of reinvest in the business and take it kind of to that grown-up status. So, you know, became a limited company in February and invested in building this new platform. So it's a SaaS product which complements the other things that I offer, which is like the networking training and the networking consultancy, creating strategies. The platform, the idea behind it is that it will empower even more people to network strategically. So what it is, it's free to use in that it's an event listings of all the networking events that happen in the region in one place, because as you know, there's so many. I think there's like 200 events on there at the minute that are coming up in the Northeast. And I've pulled them all into one place, and that's updated daily, and people can just go and use it as a resource. Or if they want, They can subscribe to the platform, fill in a questionnaire, which is all about them and their business and their objectives and who they want to meet. And then that comes through to me, and I get to utilize the networking ecosystem that I mentioned before, create a strategy for them so that moving forward, when they log into the platform, they won't see the 200 events that are coming up, because most of them won't be applicable to them. What they'll see is the events that have been strategically recommended for them. So it means that not only are all the event opportunities in one place, it means that they've got bespoke recommendations that of events that are coming up that are going to help them, again, meet the right people, have the right conversations, achieve their own objectives. So it's all about saving people time and money from going to the wrong events or searching for events, but it's making sure that they're not missing out on any opportunities that are out there that they might not have heard of, because there's so much that goes on, and they're not, well, you love a bit networking as well.
Oh, well, I do, but I mean, but you're right. It is always that thing, and it's always thinking about, oh, I didn't know about that. I think, oh, that would have been I'd really like to have gone to that. And or alternatively, you turn up somewhere and like you find that everyone's talking about the thing that they were doing last week that was so much better than where you are now. And you're like, well, why am I at this one and not the other one?
I know exactly. And everyone is so busy, and they've got their own businesses to run, and you've got other things to be thinking about. The last thing you want to, when it becomes a chore, like searching for events, or as you say, if you have a bad experience or you go to the wrong thing for what you're trying to get out of it, then it puts you off. And that's what I want to prevent. I want to help make it more accessible and easier, really, for people to tap into all the opportunities that are going on. So that's what it's there for. So yeah, just launched last week, which was mental. No one tells you. It's proper. It's a lot.
It's a
lot. It's like this massive. Like, I did a blog about it the other day, and I kind of said it's like having a baby. It's like this. You're focused on this date, this like due date, which is the launch date, and you're so focused on this date, and all this work goes into getting there, and then it happens, and it's really painful and horrible, and it's like, oh, get it, and then it's done, and then it's like, what do I do now? And then suddenly you've got this baby, this new platform to kind of look after and nurture. And it's like, I think with a new brand as well, it's finding that tone of voice and that, getting into a new routine and all those kind of things that come with, it's essentially like launching a new business, really. But with a really good foundation to it. But still,
well, in some ways, I actually think it's almost harder than launching a new business, though, is because not only have you got to get a new brand, a new business out there to new people, but when you've already had that business, you've already had a pre-existing brand, you kind of feel like you need to explain to people what's gone on and like why that is. And quite often, because it's not been, well, from my point of view, quite often these sort of things, it's not been like a one thing. Mm-hmm. It's been a culmination. It's been a long period of thinking. And actually to go into all of that, you think, is anyone really going to be interested? Yeah. So it's walking that fine line, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, I wrote the functional spec for the platform last year. So this has been going on for such a long time. And I mean, I've looked and stared at the brand every day for probably like 4 months or something. And I adore it and love it. But I need to remind myself that no one else has seen it. And it's finding that line of communication with people to explain the thought processes. And I know all that, but no one else does. So I do need to make sure that I'm conveying that so that they're on board and they get it. And I want people to feel part of it as well.
I think the problem with software and tech as well is it's that thing that it takes so long to get something live, or it takes so long to get the point where the new button exists or whatever. They're like, literally by the time it goes live, you'll be like, yeah, but I'm bored of that now, right? On the next thing. And your customers, they don't know anything about it. Like they are not ready to move on. They don't even know anything about it yet. But I think it's really difficult because you're a bit like, and I am done with that. I never want to look at it again. Like, tick, job done. And then it's like, really? I've still got to talk about this? I thought this was finished.
Because there's still loads of stuff. I mean, the platform's very much an MVP and of what I want it to be in the long run. But the functionality and everything, it's there. I think it's amazing. I'm really, really proud of it. But there's other things that, like, we've got an animation video that's still, like, I've not released yet, that's ready, and that, like, explain, like, it's like a little explainer video thing, and there's all these, like, lined up. I've still got things that I'm going to be releasing gradually, and it's just keeping that momentum and keeping that interest, as well as trying to almost build new relationships between people and the brand, because it's a new brand. So I want, you know, to create positive relationships, I think.
And look, Bev's really excited. Just checking in between meetings, which sounds amazing. So that's always good, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. Legend.
So that's it. Hang on, I've got to drive the. How do I? Okay, there we go. Right, just sort of technology there.
Love it.
So we've sort of like talked around. Actually, we should say that if people want to hop across, they can hop straight across the website, can't they?
Yeah.
And grab that there. So we'll put this in the comments as well, where we can hyperlink it. But if you do want to have a quick pop along there, then there you go. I've given you a sneak peek. So a sneak peek is always good. All right. So there was a couple of things that we've touched on there. One of those was about online networking. And I think the last year's met a lot of changes around that. So how have you seen people adapt to online networking? What's worked and what hasn't? So what's worked and what hasn't around online networking there? Oh. Oh, I think we've got a little frozen moment. Are you back, Jenny?
I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
We did a tech check before we started, didn't we? And we did say we're fating ourselves here.
It'll never happen. It's never happened before. And I was like, it'll happen. The internet, honestly, you don't know. This year has just the importance of the internet. Wow. We're back. We're fine. We're fine. What did I miss? Did I miss anything?
So I was just saying, obviously over the last year, we've mentioned about how online networking's changed quite a lot. So there's been a lot of big changes and people have had to adapt to that. So what have you seen that's worked and what have you seen that really hasn't in that space?
I think when organizations are able to bring online networking into the real world as well, I think that can be really powerful. So first, they did an event that I spoke at, and all delegates got sent a little box in the post. So when it came to the actual networking event, they were like, right, you're not allowed to open it until the event. And then at the event, everyone opened it, and then they had cookies for you, like there was a little coffee break in it.
Like a little snack.
Yeah. And I was like, that's like a really powerful way of engaging people, you know, in the real world as well as online, which I think was fantastic. So that for me was really good. Or just sending things. I think physical things. It's a bit more difficult now. Obviously, everyone's at home, and some people might not want to give out the home addresses, and that's totally fine. But if you can do that, it's a bit of an investment from the host's perspective, but I think it really pays off. And obviously, like, I'm still talking. It was a cookie in the post, and I'm still talking about it, you know, a couple of months later. But I think some things that don't work as well. It's hard. Obviously, when you go networking, a lot of the time, traditionally, you'd walk into that room full of people and be able just to mingle. And that mingling with a large group of people is really difficult. Online needs a lot more facilitation, and breakout rooms and things are good. I think like networking roulette, you know, when you could just go into a little digital and you press a button and then you get matched with someone else and you're like, oh, hello. And we've got like 3 minutes to talk and there's a little counter. I think those work well because they're a bit fun, but it's difficult for people who maybe don't have the confidence to put their camera on, and they can become a bit more, maybe not isolated, but it's a bit more difficult for those people to take that step. But yeah, it has been a really interesting year. I think, you know, the majority of people a year ago had never networked online, had never gone to an online networking event. And then now we're so used to the tech, we're so used to it that I think, well, it's definitely not going to be going anywhere. It opens up, you know, the world. Essentially, you can network with anyone, anywhere. So geography is not really a problem. If you wanted to start building relationships with businesses in Manchester, for example, you could just start attending online events that were hosted by networking organizations based in Manchester because their network's going to be Manchester. So it will, it allows you to tap into new markets and test the water and before investing in physically going there. So it's very time and cost efficient for a number of different reasons. And I think moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see how the new hybrid approach is going to be adopted. I think that's going to be interesting. Where you can, obviously, people have got the option of either going in person or logging in remotely, and how as a host you can engage both people. It's going to be quite interesting to see how people do that.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think the other thing is as well, I think there's what I've found with the online stuff is there's sometimes a real challenge, I think, for different types of people. I think you're right. If you're a bit of an introvert, that can be like a little bit daunting because you do sometimes find yourself in a room with someone else and you've got to talk to them. Yeah. But I also think actually there's some people who don't have the most longest, most focused attention span, shall we put it like that? Okay. And I think, there's a real challenge around keeping people engaged around these events as well, because I think that especially, I think when we first went into lockdown, there were a lot of events and a lot of networking things that were like presentations. It was sort of like being talked at, stuff being delivered. Yeah. And I do think that what's been nice to see over the last few months, I think, as you're right, is people get used to technology, as there's new technology that people start to come across. It does feel that people are moving to more, things have become more interactive, haven't they?
Massively. And I think we've, as hosts or as like I deliver obviously training remotely. So either someone that's doing sessions or that's hosting networking events, everyone's had to really up their game, which I think is fantastic. I think it's great. So utilizing things like Slido is a great one, where you can do quizzes and things and engage with your audience in a different way. And it's great for like market research and stuff as well. I mean, I've got puppets, my little girls puppets that I use sometimes in training to use as an example of like people like just as different, changing what people are seeing and what they're looking at. But from a networking perspective, massively, I think they've had to really become that facilitator, whereas you can't just stand and welcome people and they go and do it themselves in a room in a nice venue. You actually have to really work at making sure that everyone is engaged. And like you say, we've all got so many distractions. We've got the screens, we've got our phones, we've got the doorbell, you've got the cat, you've got whatever it is in the house. Our attention span is like, we're like goldfish now. We just we want the information and we want it done and we want it quick. But this is where it affects our ability to build relationships as well. So obviously networking is all about building that know, like, and trust, those meaningful, deeper relationships. And if you're doing it remotely, it's a lot more difficult to really focus on that other person that's talking to you, because you're not in an environment where you've got the social pressure. If me and you were in a meeting and me and you were at a networking event and I just went like this, like when you're in the middle of a sentence, you just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't do it. The phone, you're at a networking event, you focus and you're listening to someone, and it's a lot more difficult. And we're human. It's hard with so many distractions. So I think a lot of people are missing and excited to get back to in person. I know I am really excited for it.
And actually, stuff's starting to like open up again. Are you actually back to face-to-face networking yet? Have you been to one of those events yet?
I've not been to anything yet, but there's a lot. Like when I was, I'm updating everything on the website of what's happening in the region. There's a lot more happening. Like Do Business Network, I've got some walks where you can take your dog, and they're like networking events as well. Like net walking is a really good one, and it's happened more this year, I think. The Entrepreneurs Forum have got a lot of fantastic events coming up that are in person. There's, I think the Muscle Club have got plans. I know Matthew's got some stuff and ideas that he's got coming up. So there is a lot more starting to come about. I think probably by September this year, there's going to be, September traditionally is usually a really busy time for networking anyway, because people come back off the summer holidays, the kids are back at school, and they're like, crap, it's nearly Christmas. I need to hit my targets for the year or whatever, and everyone just goes networking, and they do the same thing in like January, February. They come back after Christmas and they're like, New Year, let's go, and they just go crazy. So I think September this year is going to be like super, super busy. There'll be a lot going on. I think a lot of people are missing it, and potentially could get really excited and just go to like everything and just want to be out and about, and you can't blame them. So it'll be exciting to see.
I think it's funny what you're saying about September as well, because I'm involved with delivering the incubator zone at MCon, the Engineering Manufacturing Conference, which is in September. And it's unbelievable getting involved with that. As soon as that date was released in September, like people are just they're wanting in the door, they're wanting to be exhibiting, they want to be sponsoring, they want to attend. And I think there is that, however much we've managed to do online, people are just looking forward to that opportunity to see people face to face. And I don't know it'll ever be the same, because I don't know if I'll ever shake a hand again.
No, maybe just wave it, hi,
touch,
hi.
I think it will possibly change some of our more physical interactions. But I do think that people are excited to get back in and see everyone in effect. I know that for me it's going to be quite interesting as well, because I'm not much of a hugger.
Are you not? I'm a massive hugger. I'm a massive hugger, so I'm gonna have to retrain myself to be like, oh hi, like at a distance, when really I just want to grab you and give you a squeeze.
I know, it's really funny. So people like me, there have been some upsides, because it's like nobody wants to hug you. I'm like, that really works for me. So I think it will be interesting how that pans out, kind of thing.
The new etiquette's going to be different. And I mean, there's people talking about whether or not business cards are even a thing anymore, or handshakes and all that kind of stuff. I think the thing with a handshake is that it's such it's a chemical thing. We release I think it's oxytocin when we shake hands. When you touch someone else, you get a chemical release which creates a bond. There's an example, I can't remember who talked about it, might have been Simon Sinek, talked about if you were doing a business deal with someone and you were at the table and you signed the bit of paper and you turned to them and went to shake their hand and they refused and say, no, I don't shake hands. That doesn't build trust. It's ingrained in us. It's like it's a symbolic thing. So I think shaking hands, as long as both parties are comfortable with it, will kind of always be there. But you're right in that it's not a given. And I think we have to make sure that we're being respectful of people as we return back to the real world, and know our own boundaries, and then be respectful of other people's boundaries as well.
One of the things I saw in a wedding recently was people, when you were going in, because obviously it's like a small wedding because of the COVID thing, but then there was different coloured wristbands. Yeah. It was like red, amber, green, and it was about how close and how much social contact people were comfortable with. And I thought, that's a really interesting thing around how when things that people are having to think about now that we've just never had to think about before. Kind of saying to people, this is how close I want you to get to me, and this is how close I don't want you to get to me. I mean, at one point in time that would be really weird, whereas now it almost feels a little bit sensible. Yeah,
definitely it is. It's learning the new social etiquettes that have been around forever, and now they've all completely gone out the window, and it's just finding ways of adapting to that and finding new ones. And
there's a great question just here from Andrew. Still with us, Andrew. I said you'd get to ask your question to Jeni direct. So what's the best way to engage with traditional business owners, independent business on the high street, to encourage them to network digitally? What are your thoughts on this one, Jeni?
So when we're talking about traditional businesses on the high street, do we mean like retailers and things, Andrew? Or I'll just go with traditional, anyone, like lawyers, accountants, solicitors and stuff. Getting them to network, encouraging them to network digitally. So if you're talking about going to events and things and getting them and encouraging them, I think a great way to networking is all about adding value to the people in your network. And a great way to add value is sharing information, sharing knowledge, but also inviting them along to events and helping them to get more from opportunities that they might not know about. So if you know about networking events that are coming up that you think would add value to them, personally invite them. It reminds them who you are and what you do, and shows that you're thinking of them, which is fantastic. for nurturing relationships, which is, again, networking. People think often about just meeting new people, where actually networking is about nurturing the relationships that we already have. And then inviting them along. They might be nervous. It might be something they've never done or experienced before. So even like meeting them digitally beforehand and having a catch up, and then explaining what's about to happen so that they know, right, they click onto this and then they'll be in a Zoom or whatever it is. Or introducing them to the event host is a great way for them to get more value from the network in general, because the hosts are always the most connected people in the room. And it's their job to make sure that they feel comfortable and they get the most from the events. And they're there to connect you or the person you're inviting along as a guest. In regards to like social media and networking in that sense, again, it's a lot of, I think, to do with encouragement, but highlighting and educating them on the value that comes from engaging with other businesses online and digitally. So whether that's attending a networking event or it's making sure that they've got a social media account so that they can get, I think it's highlighting what it can do for them and the power that it has. And that doesn't necessarily mean, you need to create like a PowerPoint presentation to show how many people are on Twitter and things like that. But it's more just about, speaking to them as individuals and inviting them along to an event, or, showing them, oh, this is how Twitter works and this is what I do on there, and oh, this is how LinkedIn works. So I think I always say to people, if you attend a networking event, try and pretend that you're the host as well, because it's your job to make sure that other people are comfortable, and that if you see someone that's either like, a bit more insular or they're stood on their own, as a host, it's your job to make sure that they are comfortable. So go and engage with them. And it's the same online. If someone's clearly like uncomfortable, drop them a private message, make sure to say, oh, should we have a chat, or, and just making sure that they're involved.
I think the other thing as well is, because I think there are people who just aren't used to doing stuff online, and if they've not done offline stuff, they've not done online stuff. I think part of the challenge is to really be able to give them a great reason to show up to something as well. Yeah. And to be honest with you, one of the things that I've done previously is I've actually asked some of the people who I would like to network with, saying, oh, I'm going to put an event about XYZ. I thought it might be interesting. What would you want to see if you were going to come to that?
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, well, I'd really like, I don't know, wine. I'd really like whatever it is. Then the great thing is that then you can actually put together your own event and say, brilliant news, I've even secured, XYZ to come and speak, or I've got that person from down the road you've always wanted to combine a conversation with to come along. Mm-hmm. That gives people a really strong benefit around that, because I think it is tough, isn't it? I mean, I think the first time we all did the online stuff, it is a bit of a jump. So you've got to have a good reason to do it, haven't you, really?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you can be that person that guides them through it and helps them to go and do it, and then they'll feel great afterwards. And especially if it's an event that they enjoy, whether it's one that someone else is hosting, or if one that you design specifically, then even better. And then you can make sure that they've got everything that they need and they have a fantastic time. So it's about adding that value, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And that's really interesting as well. I think what Andrew's saying there, many older traditional business owners are not digital natives. So it's face-to-face and hand-holding. Yeah. So in one of the things that I found really worked is by trying to make it really simple. So all things like, I've got a bit.ly link for my Zoom room. So rather than like a big long invite like this, if I want to invite people to my Zoom room, it's a tiny little one click, so it looks very non-threatening. I don't know if you've got any other sort of sneaky tricks like that you suggest, Jenny.
I do love a bit.ly, and then you can have a spy and see, obviously with the Zoom link, who's clicked on it anyway, but things like that. No, you're right. I think making it as least intimidating as possible. And I think a lot of that comes down to open communication and explaining things in language that they'll understand, and not condescending, but at the same time, if you said to someone about a bit.ly link, they wouldn't know what you were talking about, and people just switch off. Whereas if you said, oh, there's a free website that you can use that turns a really long link into a really short one, so it looks a lot nicer, that explaining things in a way that makes it more comfortable, I guess. So I'm totally with you on that.
That's great. Andrew, you've given us a thumbs up. Go on, we'll put the thumbs up.
Hey.
Can I just say, we didn't plan that. I mean,
No.
synchronized thumbs. What's not to like? Fantastic. If you are watching, because I can see there are a few of you out there, if you've got a question for Jeni, then don't feel shy about popping it in the comments, and we'll pop it to her. Now, I had another couple of questions for you here, but I've been so in depth, I've moved my document. Let me go back to my document. Okay. So what do you recommend to clients to maximize their network? I mean, I think for a lot of us, you know, in my example, for example, I networked for years just because, well, I mean, I'll talk to anyone, let's be honest. I mean, you put me in a room by myself and I'll talk to the wall after a while. It's fine, you know. So the great thing about that is that I feel like I've got quite a good network. I've got quite a good business network. But, you know, the question I always have is like, am I really maximizing that? Am I really leveraging that? Like, okay, so I know all these people and I've got to know them. And how can I make something of that network? How can I maximize that?
I think a big thing is nurturing it. And like I said before, you know, it's not about people are like, oh, I need to go networking to meet new people and we like almost collect them. Like we collect followers on social media. We collect like connections, whereas actually it's better to have like 10 or 20 people in your network that really get you, your business, what you do, and really understand who you're looking to meet so that they can support you and make introductions and referrals, rather than having like 5,000 connections of people that don't really know who you are and what you do and what you're about. So it's nurturing relationships strategically. I think the element of strategy is so important because I'm all about time efficiency, cost efficiency, and maximizing that return on investment. So when it comes to networking, think about, rather than putting X amount of energy and time into meeting one new client, if you can put that same amount of time and energy into meeting one person that complements you and your business and understands you and what you do, and what they offer complements what you offer, and you trust them and you like their work, put that same amount of energy into meeting that person can result in multiple, on an ongoing basis, referrals of clients. So the same amount of energy and time, instead of getting one client, you could potentially get, you know, tens of, if not hundreds on an ongoing basis. So it's about being strategic and time efficient. And I think, you know, I know like networking, and a lot of the time we network to meet clients, to make sales. That's what it's all about. But actually, if you can shift your mindset and network with the goal of accessing knowledge and information, which is one of the most valuable things you can get from networking anyway. There's research been done into it. There's a really good Harvard Business Review, which I can't share this, can I? I've got a link, but I'll find it anyway. But networking.
We'll put the link in the comments afterwards.
Yeah, I'll put it in the link in the comments afterwards. Exactly. But if you can shift your mind to network for knowledge, then you will have sales flying in. You will, because you will be a better listener. You'll ask better questions. You'll genuinely want to get to know the people that you meet and engage with. So you'll build better relationships. They'll think that you're fantastic. And it might take a little bit longer for them, in terms of, instead of when you first meet them going, this is what I do, you should buy from me, this is everything, here you go, let's sign up, let's go. Rather than
no one likes anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, no one likes that, you know.
No one likes that. If you can go networking and go, tell me about what you do, who do you work with, how did you get into that? You know, what's your best tips? You know, if I met you networking, I would literally like want to tap into all of your amazing knowledge, Victoria, and want to learn like, what tips could you give me and everything. And that someone that other people want to network and they like, and that people love talking about themselves. I'm a great example of that. So if you can go networking with the mindset of trying to access knowledge and information, you will naturally just make more sales anyway, because people will like you and they'll think you're great. And, you know, it might take the second time of meeting them in order for them to really get what it is you do, but that's okay. You're playing a long game here. We're not looking for like short, snappy, especially if what you sell is either of high value. The higher the value, the deeper the trust needs to be before a buying decision's made. Or if it's quite an emotive thing that you sell, if it's quite emotional, something like, if you know, financial advisor or something like that, where it's quite personal, or even an accountant where there needs to be that heavy amount of trust, a lawyer, something like that. Those kind of roles, you need to put that time in. Also, as well, I think when you go rural, I think the more rural you are, your target market is, the more time you need to put in. I think the stronger emphasis on trust.
Right, okay.
When you go rural, I think when you're in a densely populated city like London or somewhere, people are a lot quicker because there's so many people there. They don't really build deep relationships as often. Whereas when you're rural, there's less people and everyone really gets to know each other before they kind of gauge whether or not they trust them. So I think that's another indicator as well. But yeah, networking is very much a long game. And if you can network for knowledge, you will naturally become an amazing salesperson.
I think the other thing is
as well.
So sorry, what's that there, Jenny?
I went off on a total tangent then, Victoria. I can't even remember what question you asked me.
No, I think that was perfect. It's about maximizing your network. And I think it's really interesting because I know that, for example, over lockdown, there's people who I've been in really regular contact with just from like a personal / business perspective, just to have support around you, other people who are in the same situation. And if I'm not networked, I wouldn't know about them. I wouldn't have necessarily spent time with them and had them to pick up the phone with. Bev was on earlier on. Bev, shout out. There we go. But I think it's so. I think it's about everything you're saying there about networking for knowledge. But I think it's also about thinking that actually it's about building your support network as well. Because I do think that in business these days, this last year's showing how important that is. Right, I have another couple of questions. All right, so what would you say is the biggest mistake that you see people making on when you see them networking? I don't know if I might just have answered this, but
probably when they're like trying like sell straight away. Or I think the biggest one is when people are dismissive of people because they don't think that they're worth their time, or they look down on others because they're just starting out in their career or whatever it is. I think that's a massive mistake. I remember going to a networking event and this guy asked me whose PA I was. They're like, oh, whose PA are you? Because I was really young at the time, but still though, I think especially in these days, someone could start a business tomorrow and be a multi-cajillionaire this time next year or in 5 years, especially in the world of tech. And I think the biggest mistake is to be dismissive of people because, you never know where they're going to be. You never know when you might need or want to work with them. But also when you meet someone networking, you're not just talking to them. You are talking to everyone that they know and everyone that they will ever know in the future. So if you're rude and disrespectful to someone, then you ain't getting any recommendations, referrals from them at any point. It's really tough to come back from that. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake people make, that they let their egos get in the way, or they just rude. Just be nice to people. Everyone, just be nice to everyone. That's literally the golden rule of networking. That's it.
Because the thing is as well, reputation. People soon hear, don't they? I totally agree with that. And all right, the last couple of questions that I have for you, Jenny, because we are running up the top of the hour. No. So I knew we'd go along on this one. I'll tell you. So what would you say is like your favorite bit of tech at the moment? I always like to ask this question because I always like to find out about people's tips and tricks for technology. So is there anything exciting that you like to use on a regular basis?
I wouldn't say that it's exciting, but it is for me. A big game changer for me in the last year was discovering Audible and audiobook. So for me, I've always kind of struggled to sit down and read a book. It takes a lot of energy for me. It's not relaxing. So I just kind of, as an adult, I've just not really done it. But then when I was on maternity leave, pushing a pram around the streets for hours on end, I've discovered listening to audiobooks, which allows me to be really efficient. So I get the information I need from the book whilst pushing the pram or doing whatever. And it genuinely has changed my life in that it's opened up this world of learning. And I listen to at least one book a month. And I've just kind of almost addicted to them. I'm like, right, what can I learn next? What can I inhale information wise to learn from all these people? So that for me, it's just, it's a really simple, app. It's an audiobook app, but it's had a massive impact for me that's enabled me to like open my mind and learn a lot of new things.
Yeah.
So it's probably had the biggest impact. Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I must admit, I use Scribed, which is like a similar sort of platform.
Right.
It's a little bit, it's got a slightly different focus, and I'm exactly the same. I also I'm massively inhale podcasts. I love a podcast.
Yeah.
One of the worst things during lockdown, this is really sad, was that of course they stopped making the Archers for a little while. And I was like, I could cope with everything else, but what about the Archers? And then they came back with these monologues, which were terrible. And it was just so yeah, I'm pleased they're back. I know they've got a bit of a depressing storyline at the moment. All right. So I know Owen dashing off there. I'm pleased you've enjoyed it. Go get to your next meeting.
Owen's one of my favorite people. Definitely.
Oh,
great guy. He's fantastic. Owen. Brilliant. Owen, he's probably left already, but I'm saying it anyway. He often will just recommend people to me, and they'll pop up and they'll say, "Hi, I was chatting to Owen Waitman and he said I should talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, he's such a good egg." But we've never met in person. We've never met in 3D. So Owen's one of the people I'm very excited to meet at a networking event.
Okay, well, just FYI, I had coffee with him 2 weeks ago. So.
Did you? Owen.
In Durham. So yeah, and he even bought the coffee. So Owen, you're even more my friend because you've actually bought me a coffee. We're gonna have to fight. We're gonna have to fight over him. Okay. So what in wrap up then? I always like to ask this to people towards the end. So what are the 3 most important things that people watching could implement immediately to improve their networking? What 3 quick wins can people take away from this?
Start thinking about what they want to achieve from networking. So really think about and write down or outline what objectives you've got from networking. What's the purpose? Think about what events are going to help you achieve that. So obviously go to netno.co.uk and all the Northeast events are there. But think about who you want to meet and therefore which events are they going to be at rather than which ones fit in with your diary, because...
That's a great tip.
Yeah. And then finally, I think the big one for me is nurturing the real network you've already got. So rather than looking outward and going, right, what events can I go to? Look inward, go through your LinkedIn. Who's on there? Who have you not spoken to in the last couple of years? Who's maybe moved jobs? Or, who could you catch up with and see, let's just chat about what you've been up to in the past few years. Like me and you haven't chatted and it's lush. And, we've followed each other on social, but we haven't actually had a proper chance to chat. So today's been fab. But yeah, doing that. And I think catching up and nurturing the relationships that you've already got. That's my 3rd one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Jeni, it's been amazing. Honestly, we've got so much value out of this. So thanks so much for coming and joining us. I can't wait to do a little wrap-up chat with you in private. That's right, guys. I get to do private chatting. So thanks so much. And we'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, how good was that? Jeni is just unbelievable. When it comes to networking, there's pretty much nothing that she doesn't know. So what you need to do now is you need to make sure she is linked on LinkedIn up above here. So you need to click and you need to connect and tell her in the message, look, I saw you on the Sales Step Up. So that way she knows you're not a random stranger, but you're actually someone who's wanting to build a relationship and say hello to her, which is, of course, what networking is all about. And you'll also see there that I've popped her web address there. So she's been talking all about her platform, her approach, that ecosystem, all that list of Northeast events, especially if you're in the Northeast. You want to hop on that link and make sure that you are signed up so that you're getting all the good stuff off her. It's been amazing to have so many of you here today, and great to have a few bits and pieces of questions. So remember, we are live every 2 weeks, so we will be back in 2 weeks' time. I can't remember who's on next. I never can, but we would love to see you there. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're watching us on the replay, then remember to drop a comment below and connect with Jeni. So until next time, just keep selling.